Chained to the tracks with her puppies, she closes her eyes, bracing for the end. In the coastal town of Seabrook, a retired boat repairman haunted by loss stumbles upon a heartbreaking scene: a golden retriever and her 3 tiny puppies, tied to the railway tracks and left for dead. With a roaring train fast approaching, his desperate rescue not only saves their lives but sparks a journey of redemption and hope. What will this daring act reveal about the power of compassion and the chance for new beginnings? Watch to uncover the full story of courage and transformation. The early morning fog hung low over Seabrook, a small coastal town where old railway tracks ran parallel to the rocky shore. The town had a quiet rhythm, a blend of salty breezes, creaking wooden docks, and the distant hum of the sea. It was here that Lucas Monroe, a retired maritime worker turned boat repairman, lived a solitary life. His once vibrant world had been dimmed by years of hardship, and although he still cared deeply for his community, he kept mostly to himself. Lucas's days were spent in his modest workshop by the docks, fixing small fishing boats and old trawlers that bobbed in the harbor. Every creak of wood and clang of metal reminded him of his past, a past when he was a respected seaman, known for his unwavering courage during stormy nights at sea. Yet time had a way of erasing even the strongest of memories. Now, his only constant companion was his daughter, Emma Monroe, a headstrong teenager who, after the loss of her mother several years ago, had grown distant and rebellious. That chilly morning, as Lucas was closing up his shop, he noticed something unusual near the old railway crossing. A strange commotion pulled him away from his routine. With a furrowed brow, he stepped outside and followed a faint, desperate sound carried by the cool sea breeze, a sound that would soon change everything. There, in a narrow strip of land between the abandoned warehouses and the tracks, lay a heartbreaking scene. A golden retriever, her coat a little faded but still bearing hints of its former luster, was tied tightly to the cold, rusted rails. 3 tiny puppies huddled close to her, their whimpers merging with the sound of distant waves crashing against the rocks. The mother's eyes were wide with fear, and her body trembled as if waiting for a miracle. Lucas's heart pounded as he took in the sight. Who could have done such a cruel thing? And why here, in the heart of Seabrook? His thoughts were interrupted by a piercing, distant whistle. He looked up. The train was approaching, its sound growing louder by the second. Without thinking, Lucas dashed toward the stranded dogs. His old boots pounded the uneven pavement as he reached the railway tracks. He dropped to his knees beside the golden retriever, whose eyes shone with a mix of terror and hope. Lucas's fingers, calloused from years of hard work, fumbled with the thick ropes that bound her. Every second counted. The train's whistle was now a shrill cry, echoing ominously across the tracks. "Hold on. I'm getting you out of here," Lucas murmured, his voice trembling with determination. The ground vibrated beneath him as the train's headlights pierced through the morning fog, illuminating the dire scene. With a final, desperate tug, Lucas managed to loosen the knots. The mother dog whimpered softly, and one by one, he freed the puppies, scooping them into his arms. Just as he helped the golden retriever stand and nudge him gently, the train roared past, its force nearly knocking him off his feet. In that moment, as the deafening noise faded into the distance, Lucas felt a stirring inside him, a spark of purpose he hadn't felt in years. Later that day, with the rescued animals safe in the back of his battered pickup truck, Lucas drove slowly to a small, weathered building that he had once used as temporary shelter. The building was far from luxurious, a relic of better times, but it offered warmth and refuge. Inside, he spread out a tattered blanket on a creaky cot and gently laid the puppies down. The golden retriever, whom he named Sunny for the glimmer of hope in her eyes, settled quietly near him, her head resting against his hand as if in silent gratitude. For several days after the rescue, Lucas devoted every spare moment to caring for Sunny and her little ones. The puppies, initially frightened and weak, began to gain strength. Their playful yips and curious sniffs brought a lightness to Lucas's otherwise burdened heart. Even Emma, who usually kept to herself in the dim corner of their small apartment, noticed the change. One evening, as Lucas mended a fishing net in the workshop, Emma lingered in the doorway, watching him with cautious interest. "Dad, why are you taking care of them?" she finally asked, her tone a mixture of curiosity and quiet concern. Lucas paused and looked up, meeting her eyes. "Sometimes, Emma, when you save a life, you find a reason to keep going. I lost so much, but maybe I can still make a difference, even in small ways." Emma's eyes softened for a moment before she returned to her own troubled thoughts. Yet, in that brief exchange, a tiny bridge was built between them, a bridge that hinted at healing and reconnection. Days turned into weeks. The rescued dogs became a daily reminder of the possibility of change. Lucas's life, once marked by solitude and regret, began to fill with small moments of joy. The people of Seabrook started noticing the transformation in the quiet man who now shared his limited resources with these vulnerable creatures. Rumors spread of Lucas's kindness, and soon a local animal shelter reached out. Olivia Grant, a compassionate volunteer at the Seabrook Animal Haven, visited Lucas one crisp afternoon. "I've heard about what you did," she said gently as she stepped into his modest living room. "It takes great courage to risk your own safety to save another life." Lucas, surprised by her warm smile and kind eyes, managed a small nod. "I couldn't just leave them there," he replied quietly. "They deserved a chance." Olivia knelt beside Sunny, stroking her soft fur. "We want to help you care for them. Maybe we can find them better homes or help you if you need anything." Her offer was sincere, and although Lucas had spent so many years turning away help, something in her kindness made him reconsider. Over the next several weeks, Olivia and Lucas worked together. Olivia brought food and supplies for the dogs, and slowly, Lucas began to trust her. Their conversations, simple and unpretentious, offered Lucas glimpses of a future he had long believed was lost. Together, they organized small adoption events, and while most of the puppies found loving families, Lucas chose to keep one, a scrappy little pup with bright eyes he named Beacon, a symbol of the light that had begun to shine in his life. Yet, not everyone was pleased with the changes. In Seabrook, where tradition and old ways held sway, some locals whispered that Lucas was trying to change too much. One gloomy afternoon, as Lucas and Olivia were setting up for another adoption event at the town hall, a stern-faced man approached. "You're not fit to be a caretaker," he sneered. "A man like you should know his place." The word stung, and for a moment, Lucas felt the old familiar weight of doubt. That evening, as he sat on the worn steps of his shelter, Beacon resting at his feet and Sunny lying peacefully nearby, Lucas wondered if the cost of kindness was too high. Yet, as he looked into the eyes of the animals who trusted him completely, he remembered the day on the tracks, the terror, the hope, and the moment of redemption. He realized that every act of love, no matter how small, could create ripples in a harsh world. Determined, Lucas resolved to continue his work. With Olivia's support and his own renewed sense of purpose, he began to see the possibility of rebuilding not only his life but also his relationship with Emma. One evening, after a long day of organizing community events and caring for the animals, Lucas found Emma sitting quietly on the porch. The sky was painted in hues of pink and orange, and the gentle sound of the waves mingled with the rustle of the breeze. "Emma," Lucas began softly, "I know I haven't been the easiest person to live with. I've made mistakes, and I've been so lost. But today, saving those dogs, it reminded me that there's always a chance for a new beginning. I want us to try again, together." Emma looked up, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I'm sorry, Dad," she whispered. "I know you've been hurting. Maybe I can try to understand." In that tender moment, father and daughter began to bridge the gap that had grown between them. Over time, Emma started to help more around the shelter, and together, they organized events to raise funds for the local animal rescue. The community, once divided by whispers and suspicion, began to rally around Lucas's small but determined mission. As months passed, the little town of Seabrook transformed. The once forgotten railway tracks near the docks became a symbol of rebirth rather than despair. The story of the golden retriever and her puppies, rescued at the last possible moment by a man who had once given up hope, became a legend that inspired others. It was a story of courage, redemption, and the power of compassion. Lucas often stood by the edge of the tracks, gazing at the horizon where the sea met the sky, and he wondered about the fragile threads of fate that had brought him here. Every wave that crashed against the rocks reminded him of life's relentless force, sometimes destructive, sometimes healing. And in that rhythmic sound, he found a steady beat that echoed his own heart, resilient, hopeful, and determined to make a difference. One crisp winter morning, as the town prepared for its annual festival celebrating new beginnings, Lucas, Emma, Olivia, and many others gathered near the old railway crossing. There, amidst the crowd, Beacon played happily with other rescued animals, and Sunny lay basking in the gentle warmth of the sun. The air was filled with laughter, shared stories, and a collective promise to protect those who had been abandoned by fate. Lucas stepped forward and addressed the crowd in a soft yet steady voice. "Today, I stand before you not as a man who has lost everything, but as someone who discovered that even in our darkest moments, there is hope. That hope came to me on the tracks that fateful day when I saw a mother and her puppies, bound and waiting to be forgotten. In saving them, I found my own salvation." Tears glistened in the eyes of many as Lucas continued, "We are all capable of great acts of kindness. Each of us can be a beacon for those in need. Let this festival remind us that no one is ever truly lost. And that sometimes, saving one life can change the course of many." The crowd erupted in applause, and as the festival began, the town of Seabrook celebrated not just a tradition, but a renewed sense of community and hope. In the months that followed, Lucas's small rescue initiative grew. With the help of Olivia and Emma, he opened a modest shelter near the docks, a place where abandoned animals and troubled souls could find solace. The transformation was not without challenges, but each setback only strengthened their resolve. Lucas's journey, once marked by sorrow and solitude, now pulsed with the promise of a better tomorrow. Looking back on that fateful day, Lucas often wondered at the mysterious ways life works. A single act of kindness on cold, desolate tracks had rekindled a fire within him, a fire that now warmed not only his heart but the hearts of many in Seabrook. And as the sun dipped below the horizon each day, casting long shadows over the tracks, Lucas would smile, knowing that a new dawn had indeed come. In this new tale, the brutal scene on the tracks remains the catalyst, a moment of high tension and urgency that sparks Lucas's transformation. Though the characters and setting have changed, the essence endures. Sometimes, saving a life leads to the salvation of one's own. The legacy of Sunny, her puppies, and the lives they touched continues to ripple out, reminding us all that hope can be found even in the darkest of places. Thank you for taking the time to watch our story until the very end. If you felt the power of courage and hope through Lucas and Emma's journey, please don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support is a huge encouragement that helps us continue to bring you meaningful stories.